Meeting of the City Commission of St. Pete Beach to order. It is 6 o'clock on Wednesday, August 19th, 2026. Will you please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. City Clerk, would you please do roll call?
Commissioner Marriott? Here. Vice Mayor Robinson?
Here.
Commissioner Causey?
Here.
Commissioner Maldonado?
Here.
And Mayor Tate?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Any requested changes to the agenda?
I have one add.
Okay.
That would be item for discussion, customary use.
Okay. I'll make a note. Any other suggested changes? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
I move that we approve the agenda as amended.
A second?
City Clerk, please.
Commissioner Marriott?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Robinson?
Yes.
Commissioner Causey?
Yes.
Commissioner Maldonado?
Yes.
And Mayor Tate?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you. All right, I see we have no presentations, but we do have a moment for audience comments. City Clerk, is there any audience comments requested?
I have no audience comments.
All right. Commissioner Causey, you may be right. All right.
We're ahead of schedule.
We are way ahead of schedule. Okay. On to the consent agenda. Any requests to remove an item at this moment? Okay. I was giving others the opportunity, but I with apologies, would like to just briefly ask the city manager and/or staff questions about D, E, and F on the consent agenda. And so I would like to pull them and just have a quick question on each. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda amendment as suggested?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended or suggested.
Vice Mayor Robinson?
Yes.
Commissioner Causey?
Yes.
Commissioner Maldonado?
Yes.
Commissioner Marriott?
Yes.
Mayor Tate?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Okay. Is there any discussions on the consent, city manager, or are you just looking for us to vote on the items A, B, C, and G?
Yeah, typically no discussion on consent unless it's pulled. So
Okay.
we would just
Fair enough. So is there a motion to approve A, B, C, and G?
I'll make.
That was already completed. Yeah.
Okay, very good, all of it, okay. Very good, okay. I thought we agreed to amend the agenda, but here we go, okay. Then please, item D, approval of payment to Concur Telecom Services for license plate recognition system services and equipment in the amount of $73,500. Hello, sir, how are you?
Good evening.
Will you please state your name for public record?
Adam Poyer, I'm the Assistant City Manager.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you. I just had a quick question, because I just saw some chatter online. I know that there's some topic or some topic in general or conversations around flock cameras. This is not about flock cameras, to be clear. This is about, as I understand it, our well, why don't you tell me, please, what these cameras are for?
No, sir, this isn't the flock cameras. This is just the license plate readers that we utilize to manage our parking program. So once the license plates are inputted into our program, via resident tag or one of our pay stations or our online app, then this system would basically scan the license plates as they drive through the parking areas. We have them installed on our parking enforcement vehicles, and it would notify them if there was a violation of parking. So it doesn't search any information. It's completely different than the flock cameras.
Okay, thank you.
Yes,
and then one additional question. This $73,500 is already budgeted in the 2026 budget. You're not asking for additional funds on this?
Yes, sir. It's already budgeted. Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Okay, that's good by me. I'll keep asking questions if that's okay. I'll go on to item E. The Sheriff Office interlocal agreement. I wanted to just make sure, I know that there were some questions from the community, certainly at our our recent budget roadshows. And one of the questions was, hey, we're already kind of paying for the sheriff's services through the county. I think the answer we gave, at least at the District 3 roadshow, and I'm not sure if the other districts have heard it yet, but I just want to bring it out to light, right? I believe that we get a discount on the sheriff's services on our interlocal agreement because we're already paying for the county out of our property taxes. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct. So, basically, if the full cost of service, we get about a 30% discount on what the full cost of service to provide to our citizens, basically because they're already paying into the general fund of the county, which part of that does fund the sheriff's services. So we are subject to a 30% savings on the total cost of police servicing in St. Pete Beach.
Thank you, sir.
Yes,
That
sir.
was my only question. Just want to make sure we clarify that.
I had a-
Yeah, please. Yeah, please.
I had a question too. In regards to that, my understanding is that the amount is up about 5.74%, is that correct?
That's correct, right about that.
Do we know how that breaks out into like COLA versus maintenance, personnel versus?
I don't know off the top of my head. I'll tell you in general, it's personnel costs and equipment costs that typically drive the increase. I'll tell you, we did speak to the sheriff's department. Their contract is currently being negotiated, so likely, the salaries are populated or projected for the upcoming fiscal year because it hasn't been finalized yet. And then the other thing I'll say is one, we also prepay for additional police services. And I know we discussed that last year when we renewed this contract. We actually reduced that a little bit. So the total cost of the contract is what it is. But if we don't use those additional services, we actually get that money back into our fund. So, and I'll tell you, this year we're well below what we had anticipated, so we'll likely be getting money back on that contract this year.
Is there a way to get a breakout on that?
Oh, yeah. In fact, in your packet, it will show you, the prices this year versus last year, but I can answer any specific questions after the fact.
Yeah, I meant more specifically for equipment versus.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Versus personnel.
It does break it down in your agenda packet, so it'll show you actually each type of personnel. So we have 2 community policing deputies, and then we have the shift staff, we have supervisors, then we pay a portion of detectives, we pay a portion of dispatchers.
Yeah, I'm
It is
just
all
looking for
broken
the
down.
increase of of that 5 point, what the breakout is on that 5.7.
Certainly, I can grab you the last year's one and this year's, and I can send those to you, no problem.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Is it okay to have that follow up theoretically?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay,
that's fine.
offline.
I just, one thing I just want to add to that discussion, Mr. Mayor, is that I believe last year there was no change from the previous year, so the sheriff was able to keep that cost down. So this year, we are seeing a 5.7%, but it wasn't on top of last year. Last year was a steady state.
That's correct. So last year we did reduce services slightly. So we did have 3 community policing deputies. We reduced that down to 2 and kind of clarified our expectations of them. I think it's been working great. Both of our community deputies are fantastic, doing a great job. We're getting a lot out of the contract. And then we also lowered that overtime budget down from, I believe it was $250 down to $150. And again, they utilize their resources very well, so we haven't had to really upstaff a lot. So we've been saving money in that aspect as well.
Thank you, sir, and I'll concur. We've got some great deputies here.
Great.
So thank you in the back
I
of the
knew he
room.
was back there listening.
We appreciate you. Okay, one more question on item F, please. This is about authorize the city manager execute the security system replacement contract agreement with Empire Consulting, Inc., authorized dealer for Verkada in the amount of $100,410.60. Hi, thank you. Will you please state your name?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Candace Galloway, Director of Technology.
Okay, thank you. So can you just help us understand what the nature of this change is?
Sure.
And then I might have a follow-up on, the cost and cost benefits and cost savings. I don't know if you wrap that into the same, but trying to understand, the benefits and the cost differential to go with this system, please.
Sure, absolutely. So the existing system that we have is another scenario whereby the system has been sunsetted. It's no longer able to be maintained or supported, so we can't wrap a new support contract with it. And the support that we have on it today is ad hoc, so we're going to pay per time that they show up for whatever the service needs are. So that, coupled with the fact that we have a few locations, Fire 23 and Public Services, who are not on our badge system. They are using different one-off, couldn't really tell you exactly where all those security measures came from in terms of, keyed doors and again, they're probably homegrown. Somebody bought Home Depot and so forth. So those two locations need to be brought up to speed and put on the system regardless, whether we keep the existing system or we go with the new system. So in order from a cost comparison standpoint, at a minimum, we would have the existing system to bring those two sites up and then be maintaining about a $13,000 a year maintenance and support for ad hoc services. That's basically what we paid for the last year to have them come out and maintain that system. But as I stated, and I'll get into the difference on the new one in a second, as I stated with the existing system, we can no longer get support on it. We can't upgrade the system. There are a variety of security vulnerabilities with that. I'm sure you understand that when you can't update and patch systems, then they open up vulnerabilities that you do not want, out there on the interweb for people to try to exploit. So that's one major issue that we needed to look at from an update standpoint. And so when we looked at the cost comparison of updating the existing system or moving to a new system, the system that you see before you and the contract you see before you is a 3-year term. And so ultimately, on an ongoing basis, once we get through the implementation, there is a little bit upfront cost for implementation, but once we get through that, it's going to cost us about $7,000 less a year. On the new system, we'll have a modernized system without badge cards. People can use proximity on their phones. So there's a lot of features that we're going to get that are going to reduce costs for the city, essentially long-term, to maintain and support it.
Okay. And I think I heard you say $7,000 per year expected operational savings once this new system's in place.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions from the commission? Okay, I'm good. Thank you. I just
All right.
needed
Yes,
just
sir.
some clarity on it, so thank you. Okay. Is there a motion to approve consent items D, E, and F?
I move to approve consent items D, E, and F.
Second.
City Clerk, please.
Commissioner Causey,
Yes.
Commissioner Maldonado,
Yes.
Commissioner Marriott,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Robinson,
Yes.
Mayor Tate.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Okay, on to action items.
I can read
Yes, sir, please.
the resolution header, which is a bit long, so thank you for your time here. Resolution number 2026-25, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of St. Pete Beach, Florida, determining that Section 1.02C of the city charter required specific authorization by an affirmative vote of a majority of the full city commission for the alleged 5-year lease of the entire Mary Pier premises, and that no such commission approval occurred, distinguishing the commission's later authorization of a separate settlement transaction and new lease limited to a single dock space, withdrawing and revoking that limited offer and authorization to the extent unaccepted or unconsummated, determining that the written whole pier lease expired and was not renewed or extended, construing the lease extension provisions, declining to agree to or grant any further renewal or extension, terminating any holdover tenancy or otherwise temporary permission for continued occupancy, authorizing notice and demand for surrender of possession, authorizing the city attorney to commence and prosecute an action to recover possession and related relief, providing for implementation, and providing for an effective date. And to give a shorter summary than all the whereas clauses that are in this resolution, which delineate and describe the history of the pier. The current lease expired in February of 2026. It was not renewed. We are seeking to give a notice to the tenant that they have until September 30th to vacate the premises. If they don't vacate the premises on September 30th, we would file an action for eviction in the local circuit court and seek that remedy. You'll remember we had discussed a potential settlement of the issues. That was not accepted by the other side. They sent us a counter proposal that is unacceptable to staff and doesn't meet our charter and would give them up to a 15-year lease on the property. So since the lease has expired, we're sending this notice asking them to vacate by September 30th. And if they don't, this would authorize us to file in circuit court At that time, if we have to file in circuit court, we would call a shade meeting, which we can only call when litigation has been filed and is pending, and then we can go into further detail about the actual case itself. So I prefer not to go into any more detail than we have already in the fully described whereas sections, unless you have a specific question that we could address now.
Not from me. Is there a staff report or anything associated with this?
Just
Okay.
my presentation.
Just your presentation. I want to make sure that I didn't leave out the opportunity.
It'll be more in-depth if we have a need for a shade meeting in litigation.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the rest of the group? Okay. Is there a motion?
Like- Yep.
Yeah, please, sorry.
I'd like to make the motion to adopt resolution number 2026-25, authorizing service AV notice similar to that attached as Exhibit A, requiring surrender of the Mary Pier property no later than 11:59 p.m. on September 30th, 2026, and authorizing the city attorney to pursue an action for possession and other appropriate relief if the property is not timely surrendered.
Second.
We
Sorry,
want
who
to
was
check
the
to see
second?
if there's any public comment on it before we take
Sure.
the final
Happy
action.
to.
I
City
have
Clerk?
no public
No
comment.
public comment?
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Who
you,
was
sir.
the second on that?
Mr. Causey, Commissioner Causey.
Thank you. Commissioner Maldonado,
Yes.
Commissioner Marriott,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Robinson,
Yes.
Commissioner Causey,
Yes.
and Mayor Tate.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, sir. The next topic is items for discussion. We have 4 items on here. I guess we'll just start at the top and work our way down.
So thank you, Mayor and Commission. So for item 5A, we do have Assistant City Manager who has done some 30,000-foot research to at least introduce some information to the commission to get some dialogue and any further direction if desired tonight.
Okay, and for the record, the topic is short-term rental registration.
Yes, sir. Again, Adam Poyer, Assistant City Manager. So, like the city manager mentioned, we were asked to kind of research the viability of doing a registration program for short-term rentals. So we did do a kind of a high-level overview of that. Just to give you a little bit of historical information on this, some of our previous legal team had felt that we couldn't initiate a registration program within our city because we already had regulations in place. And they were afraid that if we did anything further, it would compromise the regulations that we already have in place. We were a little more fortunate, I guess, than some communities because we had some regulations in place prior to the state coming down and saying, basically restricting of what you could do with short-term rentals. That was back in June 1st of 2011, and we had something in place before that. So we had some restrictions already in place that others are not able to do now. So that's just kind of a historical background on kind of where we are. Flash forward to our new legal team. They do feel that we can put a registration and program in place for short-term rentals, but I will tell you that we have to be very cautious of how we, implement that program, any ordinances that we tie to that program. We can't do anything that kind of crosses the line into our current restrictions on short-term rentals. If we go into kind of that category, then we run the risk of losing our grandfather status that we gained because we had those regulations before the state basically capped those. So the long answer to that short question is yes, we could put a registration and program in place for short-term rentals. That would take a decent amount of staff time to draft an ordinance, and then once you put that in place, it would take a fairly significant amount of staff time to manage that program. So, and by that, I'm referring to 2 cases that we looked at, Cocoa Beach and Anna Marie Island, which our legal team actually were involved with those registration programs that they implemented in there. I'll tell you that both programs are very they rely on a lot of staff time to manage because you have to have a program where, one, you register each short-term rental, and then it triggers a bunch of other things such as building inspections, fire inspections, and you have to basically keep that up on a regular basis. So And then the other big part of this is, yes, you can charge for that registration program, but the fees that you charge for that registration program can only go for managing that registration program. So let's say it cost us $1 million to operate the registration program, our fees would have to equal out to that. We couldn't charge $2 million and transfer $1 million somewhere else into our budget. We'd only be able to charge the fees based on what it would cost us to basically manage and enforce the program. So that's basically an overview of what you could do. But before we dig too much deeper, we wanted to figure out what the commission would like us to do and how far you'd like us to go down this pathway of short-term rentals. And I do have a little bit more information. I'm happy to answer any questions if I can. If I can, I'm happy to bring back that information to you as well. So.
And we designed that program to what we want that program to be, as far as it being, like you said, building inspections. But there's more to it than that, it sends a message. We have concerns in the community themselves with us becoming an Airbnb / short-term rental community. And there are a lot of residents concerned with that. And this definitely sends a message doing a registration program that, we want them to fit in, but within our guidelines for that. I mean, it can be as simple as emergency numbers, and, providing stuff like some of our ordinances with turtle lighting. Or it can go to extremes. It depends on how we want to organize that, is my understanding as well.
So, and maybe I'm hopefully answering your question when I say this. Based on the feedback that we got from our legal team, once as a city we start a registration program, then the onus is on us to make sure we're managing that program, managing the short-term rentals. So there's responsibility on us to make sure that the buildings are safe. So that triggers that building inspection, fire inspection, which based on the two programs we looked at, one program has 2 FTEs fully dedicated to the short-term rental program. The other city has 3 FTEs, full-time equivalent employees dedicated to that program. So unless they told us differently, I think we would have to do that part of it as far as making sure those structures are safe. And again, if that is the intent and the problem that we're trying to solve, then yes, I would agree that would solve that.
Do we have a number of short-term rental zonings for Anna Maria and Cocoa Beach as compared to what we have here?
I don't have that number in
Because
front of
again,
you.
we're talking just lawful. We're not talking unlawful.
That's
And the
accurate.
costs are covered by what we charge for the registration fee. So those costs you're saying for inspections, et cetera, or hiring people are covered by the charges that we would charge for the registration fee.
That's correct.
For that. So it's not out of anybody's pocket. It's covered. It's a net positive, not a net negative. And we're already incurring some of these costs as it is right now that taxpayers are paying, but we're not getting them covered with code enforcement, administration, city attorney, and the like.
We do have costs currently to manage
That aren't getting
unruly
covered by-
actors of short-term rentals. That is accurate.
That's not getting covered. I mean, taxpayers are paying it, and somebody else is making a profit from it.
Yes.
So it just, to me, makes sense to be able to send a message that we care about our community, that if you want a short-term rental, you're allowed to do it, but within certain guidelines. And, you're making a profit off of it, and you've got to pay for some of those administrative costs and code enforcement costs, city attorney costs, and the like, to be able to do that. I mean, I've heard from every district about the concerns on short-term rentals. And it's not just this community, it's every community that's a desirable community.
Yeah, and the only thing I'll say, just to answer a couple of your questions, I don't have the exact numbers of how many that they have there compared to us. I'll tell you, even to get our numbers is very challenging. The closest I've been able to come today is that we have 785 Airbnb units. So that's, on the Airbnb website in St. Pete Beach. There's 928 on the VRBO site. But keep in mind, they could be on both sites. So you wouldn't add that number together and say that's how many is in St. Pete Beach. I'll tell you, just in comparison to Treasure Island, from an Airbnb perspective, it's about half as many that Treasure Island has. They have almost 1,300. So, I do think, and I mentioned it at the beginning of my comments, I do think because of the regulations and the restrictions that were put in place in 2011, I think you're in a much better situation than some other communities. I'll tell you from an enforcement standpoint, if you put a registration program, you're probably going to capture the good actors that are currently following the rules. You probably won't catch the ones that aren't following the rules, and those will be a majority of our time and from an enforcement perspective.
But we're already doing that.
And
But
we are-
We're already doing
we
that.
are
We're
already doing
not
that.
covering the costs on it. We are not covering the costs on it. Taxpayers are paying for that while other people are making money off of their Airbnbs. And it's not fair to the residents that don't want it, that aren't renting their homes, or we're paying for it.
We are, like I said, we are currently doing enforcement activities on bad actors in the short-term rental
That
space.
Anna Maria number, 720. There's 720 registered short-term rentals.
So a little
It's
less.
about 45% of all residential properties within the
That's a
city
large
of
number.
Anna Maria
45%.
are registered. They don't all do it all the time, but they have registered and they have the ability to do it.
And Anna Maria has two
2 FTEs, Anna Marie.
people managing.
Yes, ma'am.
When we do enforcement measures, I assume they occasionally, generally, I'm not sure what the right word is, result in fines that presumably do then cover our costs?
I will tell you, it's becoming increasingly difficult to prove the cases to the special magistrate. I don't want to go over exactly how we prove them here, but it is becoming more challenging. Obviously, people can figure out how we're enforcing it and make the necessary changes to try to get around the enforcement rules. But I'll tell you, when we bring it to special magistrate, yes, we are highly successful in proving the cases. Because, similar to a court case, we're not going to bring a case to a special magistrate that we don't have the evidence to prove. So if it comes to special magistrate, yes, it usually results in fines.
Okay, which is offsetting the costs of the enforcement theoretically.
Theoretically, to some degree, yes.
Understood.
Depending on how much time is spent on each case, so.
Okay. I'm going to go around. Others, Commissioner Robin, please finish your series of questions. I know we're all kind of bouncing them, but let's
I
let's do
understand
whatever you want.
also there's other data mining companies that you can hire that take care of and watch a lot of this as well, which is another cost that could be covered. And another thing would be doing any sort of interlocal agreement with another community as well, and piggybacking off of what they're doing.
Certainly,
There's
there are
other
software
creative-
systems, correct.
There are other creative aspects to do it, to potentially as well keep some of those costs down.
Sure, yeah, there are software programs that do that. Your first step would be to pass a local ordinance before you move into one of those software spaces. But yes, and I do believe some local communities are doing something similar, yes.
Mr. Maldonado.
Thank you, Chief. I would be in support of something like this if we could manage it internally using our current staffing pattern. I'm concerned about bringing in new FTEs, having to anticipate or expect what that cost would be. It could unintentionally impact some of those that are following the rules by increasing those fees and equally dividing them against, good actors. As you said, my concern is the bad actors are going to slip through the cracks. They're going to figure out how to hack the system, exploit the vulnerabilities, and not be held accountable. So at this point, I'd prefer not to even consider an FTE. See if we have the bandwidth within our current staffing pattern to see if we can absorb that. But I'd also like to lean on and use, as I said, software or AI versus, an actual face and position to it. It's a great idea. I think Commissioner Robinson is on something here that we need to look at this. We need to find a solution, but I just think it's premature at this point. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Causey.
I have the question of if you could provide me an example of what is one of the biggest percentage of, say, offenders that we're talking about here. What would be an example of that? Is it a condominium owner, a single-family homeowner? Are we talking about a 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, 1 month?
So, like I said, you have some grandfathered restrictions in our community that aren't in others. So you have some areas where you can have short-term rentals, you have some that you can't, and then you have caps on, how many you can do over a period and how long those periods can be. So I would say the most general the most general complaints that come through code enforcement are short-term rentals operating outside of the areas in which they're allowed in our city, or doing more rentals than they're allowed to do within that period of time. So those are our typical complaints. I will tell you, when we were researching this, something that could maybe be seen as an advantage is once a property is registered, if you get so many complaints on that property for noise or things like that, then you can remove their basically restrict their registration, and then they basically get blocked from operating. So, when I first heard that, I said, well, that might be a positive. So I went back and started looking at data. And quite honestly, we don't really get complaints like that with short-term rentals. We don't get a lot of, parking complaints or sound complaints or noise complaints, things like that. It is typically people thinking or realizing that someone's operating a short-term rental outside of the allowable area or outside of the allowable window that we provide. Those are the most common. And to your question, as far as condos and homes, it's probably a mix between. I might have to get you that exact data.
Is there one area of town where most of the complaints come from, or is it everywhere equal?
Yeah, I'll tell you, most of our code enforcement related complaints are pretty equally divided through our 4 districts, but we do track everything by district, so I can certainly get you that information.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to understand the scope of the problem that we're talking about and kind of understand it a little better, timelines. So if we did a registration if we implemented a registration, then how do you see that going into effect relative to these complaints that we have? So when a complaint came in, how would the registration apply?
And again, hopefully I'm answering the question you're asking. So I think with the registration program, to Commissioner Robinson's point, part of that registration program would be documenting a contact, a primary contact for each resident or for each short-term rental. Obviously some of them are done by management companies. Sometimes we have trouble, kind of defining exactly who's responsible. Maybe one advantage would be we'd have a little easier time getting a hold of a point of contact when a complaint is met or made to follow up on. I could see that maybe changing the way we do things as opposed to the way we do things today. I'll tell you, when I look at the holistic look at our code enforcement, short-term rentals probably isn't a huge, it doesn't stand out as a huge common complaint. But I think, again, your restrictions that you were able to put in place before 2011 help that a little bit, and hopefully keep down the bad actors. And when we do find them, we are pretty quick to act on them. So I think, between your current restrictions and proactive code enforcement, I think we're managing the problem fairly well right now, but, certainly I'd be open to improvements. So.
Well, okay, I'm only trying to understand, if we implemented the registration process, what would be the difference then when you receive a complaint that comes in?
There really wouldn't be much difference, short of we might have a better contact for, if it was a registered property, we might have a better contact. But again, I would say based on what we currently get complaint-wise and the current restrictions you already have in place, likely the complaints we'd be getting would be for unregistered properties. So I don't think that would change at all.
So are you able to resolve these complaints and do you keep having complaints over and over on the same property?
I would have to look back to see the repeat offenders. I will tell you that, again, in order to prove these cases has become more challenging. I will say our case numbers have gone down, so the actual complaints are going down. The way we have to go to prove these is getting more challenging. So, I would say there are cases that we open that we just don't have the evidence to prove that any violation occurred, if that makes sense.
Well, I just have one other question, Dan. I think I'm going to direct it to Commissioner Robinson because she has had these complaints coming into her. So I think I would like to just ask specifically that last question I was asking.
Well, I think the concern is, I'm going to go pre-storm because everything's skewed now. Pre-storm, if you watched a special magistrate meeting, 90% of it, correct me if I'm wrong, was rentals or illegal rentals, 90% of it.
Yeah, I don't know the exact percentage, certainly,
It was
like I
high.
said, they've tailored
It was
down, yeah.
extremely high, okay? The concern being, now with what's happened with our community, and with so much properties for sale, with so many people buying, investors, this and that, what are we gonna become? And the concern is, are we gonna become a short-term rental Airbnb community? Or are we gonna stay more as a community that's residential in nature? And that is the concern that a lot of residents have. And with that, in my point being, is this sends a message that we're watching, that we want we have ordinances that, pre, 2011, that establish zoning areas that it is allowed. And you're basically looking, I think it's RU1, that allows, everybody here is allowed to rent a month by month, to anybody, every property here. But, so you're looking at a max of 12 times a year. I mean, if you've got, if you're doing 30, 31 days a month. So everybody can do that. But there's some areas here that can do, in addition to that, they can also do short-term, less than 30 days, 3 times a year. And what you have is you have a lot of people, not whether it's they're allowed to or not, there are zones that you can do the 3 times. They're doing more than 3 times. And you have the people that are only allowed, to do the 30 days or more, and they're doing less than 30 days. And then you have people out there, and again, we'll call them all bad actors, but we have no message saying anything other than we have a code enforcement department that's searching Airbnb registrations. And to be honest with you, there's a lot of AI out there that can do this. There's a lot of data mining companies that can do this, that can find this stuff out. But we're spending the money, and our taxpayers are paying for this while other people are making money. And the whole point of the registration program is, okay, take the good actors, let them be, let them know, but it sends a clear message on who we want to be as a community. We're gonna allow this, but it's within some guidelines. And not have the taxpayers foot the whole bill on this, because you've got crossover that you can cover with those registration fees. And that's just the point of it. And other communities are doing it. And there's communities that are, after the storms, have become more like 80% Airbnb communities versus what they were residentially. And that's sad. And I know this community does not want that. The residents here do not want that.
Okay, well then, I want to follow up then with a comment on that, what you've just said. I feel like it might have some benefit, but I would not see how to fit it into the budget just right off the bat. But unless perhaps we could dedicate the fees or increase our fines for the current offenders that we're getting out of the process, and use that for an efficient system such as AI search
The
as
whole-
an initial step.
The whole thing is supported by, you can only do, it has to be supported by that.
Well, I'm just talking
So
about
the fees themselves.
First move into it would be funded through the fine that we take in. And then it would just solely be, let's see what AI can do for us as a super low cost entry. Would something like that sound like it would be good for you as an initial step, or?
I think any initial step we make to make some sort of message on who we want to be as a community, I think the residents, that's what they want. They do not want to be an Airbnb community.
Yeah.
And I think any message that we can put out there that supports that, you're welcome to come and do your legally, as a legal registration, and to support that and to help them, that's fine. But I think if we maintain a bit of control of it, I think it's a good thing. I think it sends the right message. And it's probably more a messaging thing, because it's a messaging, plus it's also a support, because anything that we have to use the funds from the registration to go towards the administration, the code enforcement of this, all of the fees you're talking about, if we have to hire somebody or send somebody out to do an inspection, that gets covered based on those fees. And that's how that operates. And the thing is, if those fees could be high, they could be, depending upon how many register for it. But it's covered. It's covered. It's a net positive. It covers costs that we're actually already incurring by code enforcement and what they're doing now, that the taxpayers are paying.
Mayor, just to keep us on task on what I would be looking for this evening is direction on whether you want us to put any more effort into researching and bringing back a solution if you want a registry, not sort of solving for it tonight.
Understood. Okay. Commissioner Marriott, please.
Thank you. So I appreciate Commissioner Robinson bringing this up, and I know that there has been a lot of talk in the community around concerns about short-term rentals. From the conversations I've had with a lot of residents in District 1, that concern has come from a confusion or a not complete understanding of what our current short-term rental regulations are. And we are significantly more protected than our neighboring communities. And then the other beach communities in Florida, I mean, like, we're in a really good spot for not allowing short-term rentals. And so I have a couple of thoughts about this. The first one is when you talk about the numbers of people who are potentially registered on Airbnb or VRBO, I've certainly noticed here locally, as well as when I travel to other places, that there's a lot of small hotels that advertise on VRBO and Airbnb. And so I'm not sure those properties would be affected at all by a short-term rental regulation, registration, or anything, because they already have their own business license, right? So I think there might be fewer properties than we're thinking that would be potentially involved in a registration. I think that if we want to send a message, I think what we need to do is enforce the rules that we have. And I don't see in anyone's world how somebody who is running an illegal short-term rental is going to come to the city and register it. They're not going to do that. My concern would be that by having a registration process, we would confuse the issue and make people think that they can do short-term rentals because there's a registration process. And so I don't know that that would do us any good. We have a pretty big code enforcement department per capita of population already. And I feel like they could probably have their energies directed more efficiently and better, so that we use the people that we have to enforce the rules that we have. I feel like since time immemorial, we talk about the rules that we have are pretty good. What we lack on is enforcement. And so I don't think that having a registration process, to me, having a registration process and creating a program and people to run it and collecting this money to run the program, I mean, I'm kind of a small government girl, so to me that's kind of just like a red tape make work program. And I'm not in favor of those if there's another way to do it. And I think that we can very much send a message by stepping up our enforcement and using the code enforcement people we have, and perhaps leveraging some technology that probably is not expensive, to really crack down on the bad actors that we have and leave everybody else alone. I don't know that, we don't have the short-term rental problems that other towns have. And so, do we have some that we need to enforce on? Absolutely. But I don't think making a program that's not for the bad actors, I don't see how that's going to keep them from operating.
Okay, I'll interject as well. I think I keep hearing that it's the bad actors that are concerned. I can imagine people that rent on a monthly basis as they're allowed to and don't have, if they had noise ordinances, even on a 2-month rental, we would go out for the noise ordinance. We have those ordinances in place. So when I usually think about what we should invest our time in, what we should invest valuable city staff time in, even researching and figuring things out, I usually think about what's broken and what's not covered by current policies and procedures. So similar to what Commissioner Marriott said, I think we've got policies in place. I think we're actually, again, I've heard we're very lucky compared to Treasure Island and some of the others. And I know we've got current legal guidance that says it might be okay to put something in, but the prior guidance was, hey, don't touch that at all. And so for me, I'm a little leery of anything that might jeopardize our current grandfathered in pieces, because my understanding is if we lose that grandfather, we are subject to daily short-term rentals if we ultimately lose that grandfathering. Is that correct?
I believe that's correct. And it is my biggest fear that we inadvertently do something in a new ordinance that would cause complications for our grandfathered ordinance, because again, like I've said many times, I do think we're in a much better situation than most communities. So to your point, that is my greatest fear of this entire process.
Losing the grandfather.
Yes.
Yeah, and I would say, listen, I agree. I don't think any of us wants to see the, short-term, kind of nightmare that I think some of our sister communities are dealing with. We're blessed with a grandfathering that we have ordinances in place. We can enforce them. I think we should find a way to cost-effectively enforce them. I think, as what I heard from you, there is a cost to enforcement. I agree. But I assume fines and fees associated with that enforcement, just like enforcing, tall vegetation or whatever else we might, noise ordinances, those things come with a fine and a fee that presumably covers the staff's work to go out and investigate and research this. So on those 2 points and lastly, even if we did collect fees on this, I want to just reiterate again, there is no using this money anywhere else. It would go right back into enforcement. If we happen to have a surplus, we make $200,000 on this, but it costs us $100,000 to enforce. Next year, we don't get to take that extra $100,000 and use it somewhere else. We've got to just kind of lower our enforcement fees going forward, and we don't get to use that money anywhere else. Can't build up a surplus, correct?
That's correct. It would operate similar to your enterprise fund. So if we had a surplus, we'd have to back
No, but
it.
it can go back into the general fund from other areas that you're offsetting.
All right. I'll jump in and I'll say at this time, I'm worried about grandfather. I would like to see us work on the enforcement pieces of it, and I'm not in favor of moving forward at this moment with staff time to research something different. Unless there is, to be very clear, if it's a very simple AI tool that doesn't involve additional FTEs and it's something we can do more efficiently, but I'm not looking to add costs and significant resources to this. I'm in favor of the enforcement methodology.
I would like to say there's only 2 ways for the grandfathering to affect that. It's changing in duration or frequency, and those are the only 2. So as long as your code doesn't change duration or frequency, it doesn't affect the pre 2011.
Okay. One more comment for Commissioner Clausen.
Yep, I just think a great takeaway for the whole thing, Commissioner Robinson, is that we could have the staff look into a low-cost AI tool for enforcement, see what the other cities are using, and see if we can start using that and see if that would get our fines going up, and maybe as a first step in the process. And in District 3, going house to house, I really didn't have any complaints about short-term rentals, and that's just District 3. In fact, in the mayor's neighborhood, I had 2 people who wanted to do short-term rentals that weren't allowed to. They were like, yeah, we can rent our house for a month, but just think we could be making a lot more money if we could rent it weekly. And, I don't have any comments to that. I'm just saying that.
For the record, it wasn't Mayor Tate, just for the record, just to be clear.
Those
Yeah,
are good actors.
It wasn't his next-door neighbors either, so they weren't far away. That's why I was trying to ask more questions about it, because I didn't hear that.
Yeah.
But I believe that you are hearing it. I just was trying to understand where it's coming from.
I think, City Manager, you have kind of the direction that you're looking for from this group. I mean, I think I'm hearing minimal, if there's some AI tool that's minimal, kind of invasive, those kind of things might be tenable, but I don't think a large effort is, at this point, what you're hearing from the commission, at least not the entire commission.
Yeah, it might even save us money. and time.
Continue to enforce what we're enforcing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir, appreciate it. Next item for discussion, City Commission agenda preparation.
Yes, I brought that up because unlike today's agenda, where it's very short, we've had some very long agendas. And getting them late in the afternoon on a Thursday falls very tough on the commission and residents who are trying to keep abreast of everything that's going on, especially when we get agendas that are 900 plus up to 2,000 pages. So the request was if we could see, I'm not looking for it immediately, but something, if we could get it Tuesday PM instead of a Thursday PM.
Listen, I think anything we can get earlier is always beneficial, but I thought I saw, city manager, correct me if I'm wrong, I thought I saw some rationale as to why it's on its current timeframes. And I don't know if you can reiterate or kind of paraphrase some of that for us, please.
Yeah, I might lean on the clerk a little bit since she manages us internally very, very efficiently, I might say. If, Renee, maybe you could overview the timelines we're dealing with. Oh, okay.
Could any of this be staggered? Like if there were a 1,000-page part that could be sent along earlier? Is that possible, or does it have to all be in one packet?
Yeah, so the challenge is we have a cadence of internal deadlines. So regardless of the size of the packet, staff is planning agendas where we plan them consistently 2 to 3 meetings ahead. So we're ahead of you, but in our planning phase, but that's how they're managing their workload. And they have deadlines to the clerk's office, and so I can't pivot from one meeting to the next because they're preparing, they already have everything in queue moving to a certain deadline. And arguably, the larger the packet, the harder it is to get it to you on Thursday at 5 p.m. So those workloads are super heavy on staff, where maybe a lighter agenda. Sometimes we do get it to the clerk earlier, and she will publish it if we complete it. But it's a very extensive calendar that we have internal review, staff, most staff reports are prepared by either a staff member or a director. If it's prepared by a staff member, the director has an allotted time to review. Everything goes through the city attorney's office, and I'm the last reviewer, and I get the packet on Monday before the publication date. So if we move it to Tuesday, either I have to turn the entire thing around in 24 hours, or I would have to back up that review on everybody. And to do that, I need several cycles. The main concern is that the way I've seen where we're working, and we might move items or we have second readings and there's changes, the deadline is coming up right after this meeting. We would literally have to turn it around the next morning, which isn't realistic. If we want to slow things down at this level, we could then say, well, you're going to have to wait 2 meetings for it. So that's a possibility.
And I will say, to note, the shorter agenda today is because we just had we have another meeting coming up on next week. And so it was very difficult for staff to make sure they had everything they needed for this meeting and next meeting so closely together. And it becomes a problem when you ask for something to be continued to the next meeting. I'm publishing this tomorrow. So if you were to continue something tonight to the next meeting, it wouldn't be the next meeting. You would have to pick a date further out.
Okay. Commissioner Maldonado, please.
Yeah, I would just echo the city clerk and city manager's positions that anything we do to back up their battle rhythm is going to impact the quality and the depth of items that we get normally have been vetted. They have meetings. Even today, you probably had several meetings before the meeting to kind of just get ahead of the next meeting. So we're going to impede their ability to present us with the most accurate and most thorough research that they can. So as an end user, the receiver of the information, I would rather give them the extra time and the ability to get through the weeds and seeds on these things, to refine it, to get us the best product they can. So I do support the current battle rhythm that we have. And we have talked about this internally. I understand, my experience has been that if you rush the staff, then you get a lesser refined product. So thank you.
Thank you. I would concur, frankly. I don't know, Commissioner Mayor, you're ultimately looking for 3, yes, move forward or not. I'm gonna just go on record of saying that I think the current cadence, given particularly what, our city clerk said about if we wanted to continue something to next session, it isn't till next session, it's now 2 sessions out, and it slows down the city. We probably lose some quality overall, so I am in favor of keeping it. And I am the recipient. I will tell you, I've spent many a night staying up till 1, 2, 3 in the morning, and I get it. It's not fun, but I'll take that hit so that the city staff doesn't take it on the front side personally.
Yeah, I agree. It's not going to make any difference. To me, getting it on Thursday is fine. I don't have any issue with it.
Okay. Thank you. Next topic, item for discussion, assignment of city commissioners as liaison for county commissioners.
Yeah, I had asked the city manager to add that on there, but really what it amounts to is I wanted to highlight, as we've been going through tax season, I think people are beginning to realize how much of their tax dollars leaves the city and goes to the county. And then they ask, well, what about all the tourism tax? Well, we don't get any of that. It all goes to the county. County points out that, well, we do give you the sand for renourishment, but then it's my understanding that's maybe 1/10 of what money leaves our city coming back in as sand. So people don't understand that, and they keep wanting to ask me, and I've heard them asking the city, what can we do to get more help? And so I think that I just wanted to highlight that for everyone here in the city, that we are a little unique, ironically, actually, that the way the county has drawn the lines for the districts in the county, we have 3 county commissioners that are responsible to be our representatives. We've actually elected them. So if you're in District 1, you would have seen Chris Scherer. He's your county commissioner specific for that part of the city. Districts 2, 3, and 4 is Vince Nowicki, and we elected him to be our representative at the county. So we should definitely reach out to him and let him know if we have a problem in Districts 2, 3, 4. And then at large, there's yet another county commissioner that is responsible for our city, and that's Kathleen Peters, County Commissioner Kathleen Peters. So each of these 3 commissioners, county commissioners, that are responsible for our city at the county level, they are on all different kinds of committees and boards that provide direction and guidance and votes and decide what happens in our city. For example, all 3 of them happen to be on the PSTA, the Transportation Board, and then Commissioner Peters, she is uniquely of interest because she is the one of them that is on the Tourist Development Council. So if you had questions about what's going on with your tourist dollars that our city contributes to the county, she would be a great person to contact. And she's also happens to be on the stormwater and wastewater of the 3. She's the one that's on the county storm and wastewater plan committee. So I literally just wanted to point that out to everyone, and I would highlight that as far as point of contact for our city, the primary voice in our city is the mayor. So you could always contact Mayor Tate if you got a question that you want to coordinate with him for how to reach out to the county. I'm sure he'd be very happy to help you with that.
I would, actually.
Yep.
So thank you.
So that's all I had on that one.
Other comments? I do have a personal comment, but I don't know if others, I usually reserve my last piece.
I just wanted to say, I think Kathleen Peters is actually our,
Reverse.
it's the
Yeah, it's
reverse.
the
Kathleen
inverse.
Peters is
Nowicki
our,
is the at-large, and
at-large.
Peters
is
is
for
that
our
right?
district,
Okay,
and
thank
Vince
you.
Nowicki
I
is
wanted to
our
make sure, yeah.
at-large. Yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I looked at the
In case
map
she's
wrong.
listening.
Yeah, she may be, yeah.
And she does. She pays attention. I'll say this. I have personally met with each of them. I actually have lunch ongoing with myself and some other mayors, with Commissioner Peters, and I've met with Commissioner Scheer. I'm trying to coordinate, and Mr. Nowicki knows that we're trying to coordinate a lunch. So I will tell you at this moment what they're doing the same thing that every city right now is doing across the entire state of Florida, and every county commission is doing. They're in the middle of budgets. Some of them are in the middle of they're in their primaries and looking to get their elections and all those things that are going on. So I will say that as a general rule, I am making it. I'll say this, we have a PSTA representative. I believe that's Mr. Marriott. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not sure if it's known, but I was just nominated by the Big C, which is our Barrier Islands group of mayors up and down the Barrier Islands group. I was nominated to be their first choice for the TDC, so I'm trying to get on the TDC myself. And I think, this is where we'll have that impact in those areas. I'm not officially on it yet. They just nominated me to be the top choice.
Keep my fingers crossed.
Yes, I am too, to be frank with you. So I think we do have access to them, and I am actively, personally, trying to make those connections, and I've got them. I'm trying to maintain them. I would be happy to start bringing back on a cadence what's going on in there. I can tell you right now, it is budgets, elections, and what's going to happen in November if the amendment comes through that changes property taxes. I mean, that's kind of what we hear from them a lot. So anyways, I agree. I would love to get more. I do think we have representation. So, but anything we can bring back and make sure we share, I would be happy to answer any of these questions. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, that's all I wanted to address, just to highlight that for everyone.
Thank you.
And thank you guys for correcting the record.
All good. All good. I'm sure Commissioner Nowicki and Commissioner Peters understood and respect that. So thank you. Okay, next item for discussion is customary use. I think, Commissioner Robinson, you raised that?
Yeah, I wanted to bring that back because we did have that very informative customary use workshop with Attorney Brooks, and just wanted to see what everybody felt on that, because I don't know if we gave any direction as to where we wanted to proceed from that. I know the residents are feel very strongly on doing some sort of ordinance or moving forward, and just seeing what we can do to continue the ball rolling. I just don't want this to drop.
Update, if I could, before you begin your discussions. So if you were able to watch the customary use seminar, then you saw the slides and you saw how this is a doctrine that's judicially created. And judicially created doctrines are exempt from regulatory takings claims. The problem, if we adopt our own regulations, those can give rise to a regulatory taking claim. Even though it does the same thing as the judicial doctrine, it's not created by the judiciary, it would be created by us. The judicially created customary use doctrine, again, is immune from these constitutional claims. We are, as you know, perhaps we were sued in federal court by the Undertow and the Plaza Beach Hotel for our beach signage. Today we filed the answer in the case, and affirmative defenses are attached to the answer, so the answer typically has all their allegations by paragraph number: admit, deny, without knowledge as to this allegation. But then you get into the affirmative defenses, and that's our chance to raise our claims that are cognizable by the court. So the court will hear this as part of the case. Affirmative defense number 9 is based on the customary use doctrine. So we will have a chance to put our evidence on in federal court and establish that, at least for that appropriate section of the beach that's at issue there. And to read you that affirmative defense, I don't want to go too much into this because we can discuss litigation in a shade meeting, but this is public record, and I'm just going to read what affirmative defense number 9 says. To the extent the plaintiff's claims depend upon a right to exclude the public from the dry sand area of the beach, those claims are barred or limited by Florida's common law doctrine of customary use, the public's recreational use to the relevant general area of the beach that has been ancient, reasonable, without interruption, and free from dispute. An established customary right cannot be revoked by the landowner and is subject to appropriate governmental regulation and may not be interfered with by uses of the property calculated to interfere with the public's exercise of that right. Citing to the cases City of Daytona Beach versus Tony Rama, Inc., 294, Southern 2nd, 73, Florida Supreme Court, 1974. And also citing to Bending versus Town of Reddington Beach, 10 Federal 4th, 1125, 11th Circuit, 2021. Entry within the scope of an established customary use right is not authorized for the purpose of Section 810.09 Florida statutes, and that's the Florida trespass statute. And if you are able, you can watch the customary use seminar where we go into more detail on those two cases, but also in the Palm Beach case, Daniels versus Palm Beach, which was the same law firm that's bringing the Plaza Beach Hotel case. And the final orders are out on that. An update on that since the customary use seminar is that Daniels versus Palm Beach is the subject of appeal now to the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals in Atlanta and a counter appeal. So both parties, Daniels and the town of Palm Beach, have appealed the ruling. So that is still pending, and that may take some time to work through. But we have a customary use affirmative defense, and that's part of our court case, and that's where that sits for right now.
Can I ask you, City Attorney, I feel like because there's litigation involved in this, I personally feel uncomfortable having a lot of open public conversations
Yes.
about it. And I don't know if you'd suggest that we, I think, table it, have our own, non-legal type conversations or something on not in public forum, because this is an ongoing litigation. You tell me if I'm wrong.
Yeah,
but-
and we'll schedule a shade, what they call executive session, commonly called a shade meeting. But once litigation is filed and something is in litigation, we can have an executive session where the city commission meets with the attorneys, and we'll invite the Insurance Defense Council from Henderson Franklin to attend as well. They have three lawyers working on this, including specialists in customary use as well as First Amendment law and federal practice. And so we'll be able to discuss case strategy in that type of meeting. So if we could kind of hold on to that, but I did want to let you know that customary use is being raised. It is raised in federal court and is being addressed, and that's kind of like the status. So until that plays out a little bit further, I hesitate from doing anything more on customary use. But it's in existence. It's a right that everyone has if they can prove those four criteria in any particular situation.
Yeah, I guess my concern too would be none of us are getting any younger, and that to the proving side of that, as you just mentioned, be able to have documents and just being able to put the word out to be able to gather.
Yep, if you have
I
any
mean,
documents,
that
start
would be-
gathering them. If you think
that
of
would be
people
the
that have
thing.
been around for a
Correct.
long time, especially beach people like Commissioner Marriott, if you know people that have been on the beach, using the beach for paddleboarding, all kinds of skimboarding, outdoor activities, we can begin to gather up potential witnesses. As we discussed at the seminar, Palm Beach put on 10 witnesses, including the owner of Palm Beach Boys Club surf shop. And his testimony was instrumental in the case, as well as other city officials and members of the public. So
We've got a long history here, so the concern again would be just being able to gather that info together so that we do have the documents if we needed them.
we have
And
begun,
not to
and we
lose them.
appreciate anything you can send into the city and send into the city clerk or myself.
Okay.
So you're requesting that then, if we've got documentation on use? I'm just making sure I understand you correctly. Send it
Yeah,
in?
If you have something, old photographs or ideas, call me, give me a call, we can talk about it. And if you have photographs,
I
send
just
them.
want to make sure before you do that, what are you suggesting? How are we going to have this repository or? We have all this information, what do you,
It would come to me. It would be
You're just gonna
for
hold on to
The
litigation.
attorney's office?
okay.
Only if
I
you
just
have,
want to be systematic
So,
because
Are we giving out your city attorney email address for people to
you can
email?
send it
Just
to the
making sure.
clerk and the clerk will send it to me.
Okay,
It'll be public records as it comes in. And once it comes into the litigation, if it's listed on an exhibit, that might be there, but we'll have some litigation discussions with the other lawyers about what's useful and what's
Should-
not.
Should we have any, like, what info you're looking for?
Right.
Just say an informational piece, your name.
I'll put
what-
something together.
Just something together, very basic.
Yep.
So that we can contact somebody if we need to, et cetera,
We'll set up a one-page instruction sheet.
Okay, great.
and city attorney, you'll work with city clerk to at least make sure that that's documented and people know how to
Yes, we'll do.
contact you
just
appropriately.
to clarify the record, are you asking specific to this case or specific to the entire beach?
Specific to this stretch of beach where the case is.
Okay,
I'll
so
clarify that
I
in the
think
instructions.
that is very narrow. I
Yes.
just want to be,
In Palm Beach, it was a half a mile, so anything within a half a mile. So for anything from the public beach south for half a mile is the area we're concentrating on.
So to be clear, I think I'm hearing, thank you, city manager.
We'll put this in instruction.
We'll put out some instructions on what we're looking for, and then that will come out with instructions on how to send us information germane to this case.
Yep, as was described in the seminar, in Daniels versus Palm Beach, the court was very explicit that it's not the entire beach. It has to be segment by segment and relevant segments. And in that segment, it was 0.4 miles.
Understood.
But it depends on the geography and what's on what section of the beach. So this is the area we're focused on right now. It's our, I won't say our first case ever, but it's our current case.
Understood. Yes, sir.
Is there any, it's why we're putting this out there. If people want to provide additional information for other areas of the beach, because I could foresee this possibly expanding, is it something we might want to talk to maybe the Beach Stewardship Committee and see if they want to handle something or collect info from other areas?
We can look into Pinellas County has set up something with 2 other municipalities, so I'll talk to them a little bit too,
Okay.
in their GIS program. Maybe that could be for other beaches, but that's a little bit further,
Down the road.
not as immediate.
Right. Understood. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Causey.
As long as we're still in a discussion session, could I put something up on the screen?
Does it relate to customary use?
It does not. It relates to clarifying the record on the previous discussion item about the county commissioners.
Ralph?
Up to the mayor as the presiding officer.
Okay.
Okay.
Would you like to see?
Yeah, I'm just gonna see
Let me
what
show you what I'm trying to point out here. Here's your at-large and here's your single-member districts.
Yes, sir.
The line for at-large
Splits
goes
2
right
and 3.
through our city. So we actually have 2 at-large.
Understood. Yes. I think this is public record, so I think you can find this on the county website, so I don't mind. What you're basically saying is, if you live in this part of St. Pete Beach, this is your at-large commissioner, this is your direct commissioner. You're just basically trying to make sure that you clarify the record on which county commissioner represents which part of our city. I don't have a concern with it unless somebody else has a concern. And then
I'll take it up to the teleprompter.
Yeah, just a quick glance at.
thank you, city attorney.
That's the commissioner's photographs on it. Wow, so that's always helpful so you can recognize.
Oh, great. Yep, there you go. That's perfect, because you may run right into them.
All right.
So if you look at, on the at-large districts there's 1 and 3 cut right through the city of St. Pete Beach. So there's 2 of the at-large, there's only 3 at-large commissioners in the whole county, and 2 of them are for parts of our city, so that kind of doubles our impact.
Right. If I'm reading what you're saying, we've got 2 at-large that bifurcate our city.
Yep.
And then we've got Commissioner Peters as, unless we got to zoom in and see if there's a little bit of 7 hanging over into 6, but Commissioner Peters seems to be the one, and I didn't think yeah. So I think just putting this on public record for people to be aware of, and I think it's obviously here, and this is a matter of, I imagine you can go to Pinellas County and their website and see the same information, so.
Yep, that's right from the
All right.
website. Yep,
Pinellas.gov.
yep, thank you.
All right.
That's it.
All right. I think that's the end of our items for discussion. So, commission reports, please. City Clerk, anything to report?
Nothing to report this evening.
Thank you. City Manager?
Just a few items of interest. I just wanted, and I know Publix continues to be of great community interest. They are still currently in lease negotiations with their landlord, Brixmor, but we are anticipating them planning a first community meeting hosted in the fall. We do not have an exact date yet, but we will certainly push that out when we do. And then they have advised us that they're hoping to have their first conditional use permit hearing approximately in the spring of 2027.
All right.
So we are still waiting, and we're ready with open arms and the big mitt to catch them when they come our way. Budget Roadshow events, we've completed 2. Just want to remind everyone that District 4 Budget Roadshow will take place on Monday, August 24th at 6 p.m., hosted in the Warren Webster Building in Paso Grill. And the District 2 Roadshow will take place on Wednesday, August 26th at 5:30 p.m., hosted at our public library. And then lastly, we have scheduled a groundbreaking for Fire Station 22. It is planned for Wednesday, September 16th, approximately at 10 a.m. The ceremony will take place at 1950 Paso Grill Way at the site of the former station. And so we hope as many of you can come out and join us in this very exciting time for rebuild.
Love it. Thank you. City Attorney, any report from you, sir?
Nothing further.
All right. Commissioner Maldonado?
Yeah, just first of all, I'd like to say thank you to the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office for their great investigative work. A lot of efforts thrown at some breaking and enterings that occurred 3 weeks ago on Vina. As a reminder to our community, please lock your property. Let's not make it easy for the criminals to get to our stuff. And then, as the city manager said, our next community meeting will be on the 24th. It won't be a regular meeting, so it's going to be just the budget roadshow. Several of you have already reached out with questions in anticipation. So again, thank you to the staff for supporting that, and we look forward to seeing you then. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Commissioner Causey?
Nothing further.
Commissioner Robinson?
Again, District 2's roadshow, budget roadshow is Wednesday. I apologize, I originally had it as Thursday, but that has changed to Wednesday at the library from 5:30 to 7 p.m. Also, September 14th, I will have my Monday, it's first Monday, but this will be the second Monday because the first Monday is Labor Day. So September 14th, 5 to 5:45 at the library as well. I am taking applications for a position for the Budget and Finance Committee. So if anybody's interested, please submit applications or resumes to Renee, the clerk, and she will go ahead and forward those to me. If anybody has driven up and down Boca Sega Drive / Golfwinds and seen all the road work out there, the undergrounding, there was a portion of area that was undergrounded, and then the hardening lines that come about 71st on down to 73rd, they are activating those lines coming up. So that's been happening, and it's been quite interesting and loud.
Yeah.
So looking forward to that. And that's all.
Thank you. Commissioner Robinson. I'm sorry, Commissioner Marriott.
Thank you.
Robinson, thank you.
So the District 1 Budget Roadshow was last Wednesday. I wish we had had a bigger turnout, but we had good conversation with the folks who showed up. As was mentioned earlier, I am the representative on the PSTA board, the Transportation board, and I did want to let everyone know that they have a Route 90 is is up for potentially being eliminated. That's the bus route that runs from roughly the county park or a little bit south of the county park over to 34th Street in South St. Pete. It's a pretty short route. It doesn't have big ridership. There will be a public hearing at PTSA or PSTA headquarters next Wednesday at the regular PSTA board meeting. So if anyone has any comments about whether or not they are concerned about Route 90 being eliminated, that would be the time. And then, although I've tried to reach out to the property owner and have not had a conversation with them yet, I did want to say that I did notice that the shopping center on the southwest corner of 75th and Gulf Boulevard, where PJ's used to be, which was demolished, but the rest of that shopping center still stands. I know that there's been a lot of concern and gossip about what may be happening there. And I did notice that they have applied for building permits for repair of that building. So I would assume, although I have not spoken to the property owner yet, that does not mean the whole building is getting torn down and turned into condos like I hear people saying regularly. So that's not what's currently happening. It looks like that building is being repaired. And I imagine that there will be space, commercial space for lease there at some point in the relatively near future. And that's it.
Okay, thank you. For me, at the risk of being repetitive, the road shows that we've had 2 out of the 4 districts. My intent was to be at all 4. I have been at District 1 and District 3. I intend to be at District 4. With apologies to Commissioner Robinson, I will miss the District 2 session. I had a pre-planned PTO, and so I will be out. However, just this afternoon, our city communications director and I were able to pull together kind of a short video that explains what we're trying to do with our budgeting process and the goals that we're trying to accomplish. So hopefully that will go out. I actually think before the District 4 session on Monday is the goal. And it's referencing both of these sessions, and hopefully will cover a lot of what I have been conveying at the preamble for these sessions anyway. So, but I'm happy to entertain any questions that might arise as a result of, I will be at District 4. Happy to entertain any questions post of anything that arises at District 2. I apologize for not being able to be there. Otherwise, I think that is it for me. And there being no further business, we are adjourned. Thank you.